Okay, let's just get straight into it. We all know how incredibly frustrating it can be to wait for medical care on the NHS, right? You're basically sitting there feeling like you have absolutely zero control over when you'll actually get treated. But today we're going to change that entire narrative. Let's dive into this explainer, unpack the actual rules of the system, and look at a completely legal strategy that's basically hiding in plain sight so you can finally take your power back. So right off the bat, we need to address the elephant in the room, 7.22 million. That's how many cases are sitting on the NHS waiting list in England right now. It is an absolutely staggering number. And you know, it's so easy to look at a figure like that, read the gloomy headlines, and just feel completely defeated. Because we're not just talking about data. We're talking about millions of people putting their lives, their careers, and their comfort completely on hold. But listen, there is a way through this massive backlog, and it entirely relies on knowing exactly how the system operates behind the scenes. And here is the absolute kicker. Fewer than 1 in 10 patients actually use the legal trick that can bypass the absolute worst of these wait times. Just think about that. 90% of patients are just waiting in line, taking whatever default hospital assignment they're given, completely unaware that they actually hold a constitutional right to explore much faster options. It's crazy.
Part 1. The NHS Waiting Game.
So while you technically have a constitutional right to timely care, the reality on the ground is that millions are waiting months longer than they ever did before COVID. Right now, only 62% of patients are actually seen within the standard 18 weeks. The median wait has crept up to almost 12 weeks, and get this, roughly 100,000 people have been waiting for over a year. Again, these aren't just dry statistics, these are real folks dealing with serious day-to-day uncertainty. Which means, if the standard isn't just naturally being met for you, you need to know exactly what that standard is.
Moving to Part 2, the 18-week rule. This is your legal baseline.
Basically, your 18-week clock starts ticking from the exact moment your GP books your referral all the way until your treatment actually starts. Day 0 isn't the day you finally see the specialist, no. It's the day that e-referral is booked or the hospital receives your letter. And that clock keeps right on ticking through all your tests, your scans, your monitoring, the whole shebang. The ultimate goal here is that by week 18, your actual treatment is underway or a clinician has officially decided it isn't necessary. It covers your entire pathway.
Now, a quick heads up, there are a few specific exceptions to this rule where the clock literally stops ticking or just doesn't apply. For example, if you personally decide you want to postpone your surgery for whatever reason, the clock stops. If your doctor turns around and says, hey, you need to lose weight or quit smoking before it's actually safe to operate, the clock pauses because it's in your best clinical interest. And crucially, if you just fail to show up to your appointments, you forfeit this right entirely. So you've got to stay engaged with the process.
Oh, and one massive caveat here. If you happen to be referred for an urgent suspected cancer check, throw that 18-week rule out the window. Your timeline is way tighter. Under the faster diagnosis standard, it absolutely must be confirmed or ruled out within 28 days. It's a completely different, highly prioritized pathway. If you get that kind of urgent referral, it is absolutely critical that you make yourself available for those appointments immediately.
All right, Part 3, your right to choose. And honestly, this is the real game changer. Listen closely to this, because it's absolutely crucial. We are not talking about paying out of pocket for private healthcare here. This is a completely free, legal right to use alternative NHS trusts or even independent sector hospitals. When your GP refers you for routine care, they are literally required by the NHS Constitution to offer you a choice of at least 5 suitable providers. So, if there's a fancy private hospital down the road that holds an NHS contract, you can choose to be treated right there, and it will not cost you a single penny. No way, right? But it's true.
So how does this hack actually play out in the real world? Well, picture your massive, famous local teaching hospital. They probably have a huge backlog pushing their average wait time to something like 22 weeks. But a smaller trust or a contracted independent clinic just a few towns over might have a wait of only 8 weeks. You're getting the exact same treatment, the exact same level of care, but you get your life back months faster.
To put that into perspective, the sheer impact of making that choice is mind-blowing. According to data from the government and the Patients Association, you might only need to travel about 13 miles to jump from a really struggling provider to one of the top performers. 13 miles! Just let that sink in for a second. A 20-minute drive could literally save you 14 solid weeks of waiting, pain, and uncertainty. It just proves that your local geography definitely does not have to dictate your healthcare destiny. Part 4. Executing the strategy. Let's get into the actual playbook. So how do you take total control of your pathway? Well, before you even walk into the doctor's office, do a little homework. You can check current real-world wait times on the My Planned Care website. Then hop onto the NHS app to compare travel distances and hospital quality. But here is the most important step. Be your own advocate. When you see your GP, ask them directly, "Can I see my choice of providers for this referral?" Don't sit around waiting for them to offer it. Claim it yourself.
Now, what if you're not super tech savvy, or maybe the cost of traveling a bit further is a real issue for you? Don't worry at all. The system actually has built-in support mechanisms for exactly this. You can just pick up the phone and call the National Referral Helpline, and someone will walk you through all your options. Plus, if travel costs are holding you back, there's the Healthcare Travel Costs Scheme, which offers refunds for eligible patients. You really don't need to be a tech wizard or have deep pockets to take full advantage of this constitutional right.
Finally, Part 5. What if you're already stuck on a list right now?
Look, if you're one of the millions already languishing on a wait list, you are not trapped. You can actually pivot mid-wait. You can contact your current hospital or your referring GP and flat out request a transfer to a provider with a shorter list. In fact, starting in October, the NHS is required to proactively reach out to patients waiting over 40 weeks to ask if they want to switch. And hey, if you feel like you're hitting a brick wall and your 18-week standard is being breached, you have total constitutional grounds to escalate this via PALS, the Patient Advice and Liaison Service, or even lodge a formal complaint with your local integrated care board. They are there to enforce your rights.
And here is a massive, massive safeguard to keep in your back pocket. What if you show up on the day of your admission and they cancel your operation at the very last minute for a non-clinical reason, like they ran out of beds or staff? Bam! You instantly gain the power to demand a new, binding date within 28 days. If they can't manage that, you get to choose where you go, and they have to foot the bill for your care elsewhere. They are instantly on the hook.
Armed with this explainer, the power is totally in your hands. You now understand the 18-week rule, you know the incredible leverage of your right to choose, and you know exactly how to pivot if you ever get stuck in the system. So the only real question left is, when are you going to put this legal playbook into action and secure the timely healthcare you absolutely deserve?